one of the, I don't know, quote unquote regrets I had was, and then dapat pala like MIS na or CS, because I eventually wanted to get into tech. So I should have just went with a tech course. Pero I guess I'll start with back. So I came from Ateneo also. I graduated 2015 sa BS Management. Um, First job out of college, I went to government. So I worked for DSWD for a little less than a year. So at that point, parang wala pa akong tech background at all. But my biggest takeaway from that first job was medyo slow yung processes sa government. Like things are really um, prehistoric. So uh, efficiency, like there were no efficient processes talaga. And one of the things I really saw was tech was an easy way to um, get things moving faster. So ME kasi ako dati, pero I failed and I moved to management. Pero nag-ITM ako. So I knew a bit about like mga Excel spreadsheets, and that was a big help na when I was in that job. Parang I was able to automate some of the reports. And after that, I realized no, parang I wanna pursue a career in tech talaga. So after that, I applied to this parang software development company as since I'm on tech background, I applied like a sales slash project manager position. So I think for the people sa ITE, when I worked for Joben Ilagan, I don't know if you guys probably might know. I think he's a professor and the program director. So he was my boss in that company. I worked for him for like 4 years. And siya kasi ME grad din siya. So he accepted me kasi meron siyang advocacy na parang you don't need to graduate from like computer science to get into tech. Diba? So he let me in, he taught me a lot of stuff. That's where I learned most of my tech foundation. So I started managing parang mobile app development projects, mga web apps. And from there, I saw na the data is where I want to go. Parang may buzzword na yung data science at that point. So I started learning Python on the side. But the more that we tried to pitch data science projects to clients, I saw that my gap in the market, like for you to be able for you to be able to do data science, you need to have data in the first place, diba? And you need to have a way to process all that data. And all the companies that wanted to do data science weren't ready for it. Parang sabi na, hey, can you guys do big data for us? Can you guys do machine learning for us? Pero when you ask them, sige, parang what data do you have? Wala pala. So like there's that clear gap, and that's how I ended up in data engineering because that's what data engineering is. Parang it's how do you parang find ways to process like large amounts of data that parang an Excel spreadsheet can't do on your laptop anymore. How do you store that much data? How do you do it all in the cloud? So that's how I moved to data engineering, and then I landed my first like data engineering role here in Kumu. So last year lang. And that's where I learned really most of what I know right now. And yeah, I guess that's my background now. Right now, I'm leading the data architecture team in Kumu. So that's a team of our data engineers and machine learning engineers. So our main focus now is we're deploying um, so any kind of machine learning service that our data scientists come up with. So let's say a recommendation engine. They come up with a model that predicts content recommendations to users. We're the ones who find a way to deploy it into production. So parang we come up with like an API endpoint, and then we'll just tell the backend team, "Oi, just call this endpoint, and then you'll get recommendations from it, and then show it on the app." That's basically what I do right now. Malamang at the start, I had no idea about tech, pero because I exposed myself to parang the developers, how our architects built up solutions, I slowly just started to pick up on things. So parang the immediate or the small wins is if you hear terms that you don't know, parang paminsan sa meetings, I hear something, I'll Google what the term means, and then yun, parang I'll pick it up. Or I'll ask one of the developers after the meeting, Oy, kanina you said parang API endpoint. What does that mean? How does that work? So it's really being not afraid to ask things, expose yourself to people who can teach you. You learning online and parang self-studying can only get you so far kasi like you can have a lot of textbook knowledge pero if you don't know how to parang converse with people and use the terms properly, parang it's really not gonna be effective in the real world. One of the, I don't know, quote unquote regrets I had was, and then dapat pala like MIS na or CS, because I eventually wanted to get into tech. So I should have just went with a tech course. Pero now that I think about it, parang it's not something that I kind of wish to change anymore. Like, I'm pretty happy with the path I went through. Because I mean, I am at a point where I guess I'm happy where I am naman. So parang, oh, I guess it worked out fine naman. So when I came in Kumu last year, there was no data team. So I was like the first data, technical data hire talaga. And when I came in, the chief architect just told me, parang, hey, we need to start doing data stuff. And the first assignment was, okay, we need to come up with a data warehouse. So I guess for those who aren't familiar with what a data warehouse is, typically kasi we have databases, diba? That's where an app runs off or gets data from. We don't do reports on the live production database kasi if you run a query uh, to get, sabihin mo parang I wanna get, okay, give me all the revenue of Kumu for the entire year of 2021. If I run that query on our production database, it's a huge query. It might overload the database and it might crash and it will cause the app to fail. Diba? So you're supposed to be separating what's in production and what you're doing on the reports side. So the first assignment to me was, okay, build a data warehouse where we can run all of our reports safely. So that's what I did for like the first 6 months. My job was pull data from this database, pull data from this marketing tool, from this events tracking, and then put it all in one place. And then we started building out our data analyst team. So the analysts started running SQL queries. They started doing the reports for all the teams. And yeah, that's how the foundation of the data in Kumu started. And then eventually we grew to get data scientists that started doing more complex analysis na, building machine learning models. And then now we're heavily involved in how the back end app runs na. And like the goal is to make Kumu a smart app, right? It's not like an app that just does live streaming, pero we should be able to intuitively suggest, hey, parang these are live streams that you might like. These are some products you might want to buy in e-commerce, things like that. I guess yeah, like pati kami natatakot kami. Lalo na sa data team, we're not software engineers, right? So we don't do any of the like mobile dev or backend dev stuff. So takot kami na baka we do something and then masira yung app, diba? So there are, I guess, safeguards or best practices in the industry where you try to separate those two and you build it in such a way na if our entire service dies or if it fails, it shouldn't affect how the app runs like overall. So it is scary, but I think that's also what drives some of the design principles that we use to make decisions over, sige, how do we build this and how parang should this kind of service run. I guess for people who really want to get technical, I don't know, I might be biased, pero I really do believe that any modern tech company or any modern startup will run on the cloud. So, like kami, we're doing a bunch of hiring right now, and the one thing that really stands out all the time is if this person knows how to run things in the cloud, that's really a big thing. Kasi that's learning how to code. I feel like is a smaller step that anyone can do, but learning how to do things on the cloud is a much bigger adjustment that I noticed with people. So I guess for the technical people, that's what I'd suggest. Um, alam ko, medyo ano medyo laos na yung suggestion na try to build out your own projects or parang try things on your own. I mean, that always applies. Pero I feel like it can only get you so far. But it'll only get you as far as getting your first job. Pero learning the right skills, right tools will definitely help. And each company does things in different ways. So I think it would help to get an idea of what kinds of companies you want to target to apply for. And then try to get an idea what their tech stack is. So like Samin, if someone really wants to work for the Kumu data team, um, AWS is something that we highly look for. Um, Programming in Python, definitely. And if you go to a different data team of a different company, they might be running things using a different tech stack. So I think it would also help targeting what company you want to go with. You don't have to have a tech background, but then if you eventually do want to be in tech, you need to learn it one way or another, diba? So I guess my advice to people like that now, wala pa talaga. You just really have to dive into it. Don't get into it because parang you feel like kasi maraming pera doon or because wala, sabi nila it's a good job. I don't think you're gonna survive there. Parang only get into it if you're really enthusiastic about and if you're enthusiastic about data engineering, if you're enthusiastic about data science, because it's really a lot of learning over and over again. It involves a lot of grit. So if you aren't genuinely interested in learning about that, I don't think it's gonna be enough to get you to a place where you're actually doing well. One of the most important things I look for isn't the technical skills. So if they don't know how to do Python right now, if they don't know how to do AWS, I can forego that if the candidate shows me that they have like a very high learning aptitude. So if they don't know something, but they know how to learn new things, that's what I'm gonna put more emphasis on, and that's what I look for. So if parang itong candidate really shows this enthusiasm in tech and parang they ask a lot about, okay, so how do you do this? How do you do that? It shows me na they're gonna learn things on their own and I don't have to keep teaching people. I mean, of course, there's that mentorship. Mentorship is that coaching that we do within the team, but it can only get so far then. Like, we don't want to handhold anyone. We don't want to spoon feed anyone. So if people can show that they are active learners on their own, they know they're smart enough to be able to pick up concepts, then that's one of the most important things I look for. I guess the most rewarding part isn't something that is realized pa talaga. Like, one of the things I feel most passionate about being in my role right now is I feel like Kumu is in a place where it can offer a lot of opportunities for data talents in the Philippines. So before I joined Kumu, parang I had this result na, okay, I want to do data engineering talaga. And when I was looking for jobs within the country, parang wala masyadong opportunities eh. Like, there aren't a lot of companies that know the value of data, know how to handle data. And I think that's why a lot of the really, really good data talents, they'll end up going abroad. Parang going to Singapore, going to the US. Kasi wala masyadong opportunity dito eh. And even if you do get like a data engineer role, like, companies won't pay you what that job is really worth naman. So kulang opportunities eh. So right now in Kumu, I feel like we're in a good spot to, my goal is to be like the Google of the Philippines. You know, like, if there are top data talents, top engineer talents, dapat the go-to for them is, I want to go to Kumu. Like, that's the place to go if you're like a really good engineer. And yeah, that's my vision right now. That's how we're building out the team. We're a pretty lean team, but I feel like a lot the maturity of the infrastructure we've built out, the practices we've done, are really far ahead of a lot of the tech companies right now in the Philippines. Well, a lot of the companies here, lalo na yung mga retail companies, they're still pretty slow to move. Pero I guess this pandemic just helped um, be a catalyst to letting people realize that okay, going digital, going online is the way that companies have to move towards. And the more companies that move to like online selling or like digitized processes, the more they'll start to feel na okay, at some point our data is gonna grow too big and we can't do the same things. Parang you can't run everything on spreadsheets forever, diba? So they're gonna reach that point, and I think companies are slowly starting to realize that. But parang there's really that gap in that education and awareness. Like people still don't understand what data science is, what data engineering is, how to use data engineers and data scientists for the company. Talaga. So um, I guess that's like a slow turning point. I don't think we're there yet, but yeah, we're headed there. A lot of like old school thinkers will decide based on their experience. Eh. Pero the I guess the accessibility to a lot of things is a lot bigger and a lot bigger, and there is too much information for people or individuals to decide based on their intuition. Parang dati, if you were selling something, ang lit lang ng scope mo eh. Like you didn't have to think about if you were selling in like Metro Manila. Parang medyo maliit na market lang yun. You didn't have to think about all other factors selling to like other provinces, other regions. And the more you expand kasi, the more things you'll need to factor into making decision, into your decision making. And right now, since the accessibility and availability of services and your products are getting bigger and bigger, it's just impossible for you to intuitively be able to decide based on intuition. So data comes in to try to um, keep your decisions objective, but also based on something that's tangible and will help move things forward. But I'm also a believer na hindi ako 100% like just go with the data. Like I also understand that there's a lot of qualitative aspects to decisions that businesses make, and I don't I'm not an advocate of like data completely automating all of the decisions. I feel like data is more of like an enabler as a way to support decision makers to give them what they need. But it's not well, even the processes we do right now in Kumu, our goal isn't to fully automate decision making. So let's say right now we have a content moderation app. So the service looks at parang cover photos of live streamers when they upload it, and it's supposed to detect if they upload something nude or there's violence or things like that. We don't automatically block streamers if our model decides that it's a violation. It only gives a heads up to decision makers. Oy, parang this streamer might be violating something. You guys should check it out. Because I don't think data is at the point where it can fully automate all of the processes yet. Well, I guess as a data engineer, like a lot of the decisions that I'll personally make is decisions about how to design the services that we're building. So let's say we're building out a pipeline. The decisions involved there is how much data do I expect this pipeline to process, and based on that, then we decide okay, like how much CPU we should be factoring into like the servers, how much RAM, and all that. So most of that will be based on parang, uh, past history. So we'll look at data. Okay, historically, parang how much data parang have we been processing on a daily basis, and then we parang use that as a benchmark. But intuition comes in to sort of um, enrich that initial benchmark. Na okay, we know that we've been, let's say, processing 1 terabyte per day. we don't just build something that processes 1 terabyte. We have to build something that processes around 10 terabytes because the intuition tells me na there's going to be intense growth over the next couple of months. So if we build something that's just going to be good enough for now, it might just break like 2 or 3 months down the road. So I guess that's where intuition comes in, where we still need to be like forward thinking. We need to be able to anticipate what are the parang likely problems that may arise, and that's something that data can't always tell us. Um, the clearest thing I feel is it's a live streaming platform that's really focused on catering towards Filipinos. So parang alam naman natin na like Filipinos are very very heavy on social media usage, and medyo wild parang mag-comment, wild yung engagement ng mga Filipinos eh. And like Kumu gave um, like global Pinoys a platform to be able to parang exert all of that or focus all of that energy in. Compared to other streaming platforms, I think we get compared a lot to Twitch, and I guess recently mga Facebook Live, Instagram Live. I feel like the difference between those is we're a lot more engaging. Parang when I watch Facebook Live or mga Instagram Live, it's really the live streamer. Parang it's like a YouTube video na ginawa lang nilang live, and it's really one way. But the main difference is if you compare it to the experience within the Kumu app, there's really two-way engagement. It's focused on really being like authentic, and parang the gifting experience is something that a lot of people didn't think would parang be a hit with Filipinos, pero it eventually did. There's a lot of people who were able to, I don't know, like actually really make friends on the app, as in they know the streamer they follow, they always watch each time, and pati kami sa team paminsan, parang magla-live stream lang kami, and yun na yung parang tambay namin since lalo na ngayon sa pandemic, parang we can't really hang out as much physically. I guess not specifically being a data engineer, but then I guess more generically working in a startup. And I guess this is something that maybe a lot of fresh grads will appreciate, but like work will never stop talaga. Like you'll never reach a point where you've done all your tasks and you have nothing more to do. Maybe like in the first few weeks, ganun ka kasi wala pa masyadong gagawin. Pero work will never stop, and the main lesson I learned was you have to be able to set those boundaries for yourselves. So you need to be able to set, okay, I'm only working up until this time. What I don't finish at this time, bukas na siya. Kasi I guess there's that pressure paminsan na no, I have to finish everything or else people will think I'm not productive or I'm not working. But I noticed that it's really not the case. But like people aren't looking at you or parang measuring how much work you've done as much as we think they are. So the more that we practice that within the team, parang the more things became more relaxed. Things became, things aren't toxic. So I'm pretty happy with the workload, and I feel like that's one turning point that I've noticed with my colleagues as well, with my batchmates. Na at the point where you realize na okay, wait lang, I shouldn't be killing myself over work. Was a point where they kind of reach that balance where work is work. They're enjoying what they're doing, but it's not like consuming so much of their lives. I was gonna define it. I guess like a startup is a company that's put up with a like specific purpose talaga that tries to medyo laos na term, but like tries to disrupt how like an industry currently works. Well, all of our founders are Filipino, so I think that's where that parang deep-rooted parang Pinoy pride comes from. So I hope I'm not making a mistake in like saying any wrong details about our story. But then there were a group of friends. I know a lot of them were batchmates. They went to college together in the States. Pero lahat sila Pinoy. They decided na, okay, like, we wanna do something related to the Philippines. So I wanted to put up a startup. And actually, the first plan that they had was to build like a messaging app. So I think the peg before was to make a Filipino Viber. But when they launched, it didn't take off. So medyo nag-fail siya dun sa first launch nila. And then they were kind of panicking na, damn, we put all of our savings here. What are we gonna do now? And then one of their interns at the time kind of noticed na, hey, um, okay, the app isn't doing pretty well overall, but then we noticed that there's this specific niche group of users in the app that had really high retention, and that group of users were using the live stream tool. So they started to explore it a bit more, and then they pivoted to like a live streaming app. And then from there, I think that's where the community started growing. Uh, they saw a lot of engagement from Pinoys all around the world. So I think like I think how personally, like, one story or one like profile that always spoke out to me was kilala yung Philippines having a lot of OFWs, eh, di ba? And parang being an OFW, like working in a foreign country, may kilala ka ng mga Pinoy wherever you go. Pero working in a foreign country, not being with parang your family talaga, can get a bit lonely, and you'll always get homesick. Eh. So like Kumu was a way to give OFW specifically a way to reconnect with the Philippines, even if online. So I think it's really a lot of stories like that where a lot of Filipinos in different situations kind of found that sense of community when they used Kumu. And that's where a lot of the inspiration for the app came from. Like the inspiration or the analogy they always make is parang when you see street performers, diba? Like if you're walking to BGC or parang if you see buskers, you appreciate parang the kind of work that they do. Parang it touched you in some way, you give a tip. And I think that's the parang virtual tipping that Kumu tries to replicate. Parang it's being able to appreciate these content creators that really put effort into their craft. And as a viewer, it's not just I acknowledge what you're doing, but it's also you trying to make a connection with these streamers. So that's where the kind of virtual gifting idea comes from, at least the way I understand it. And I guess to answer your question, like how do streamers earn talaga? So the way they earn is really from their viewers. So it's a crowd-driven community. It's a audience-driven platform. So if you're doing something that let's say is objectively good, pero viewers don't really have any attachment with it, or they don't find it kind of appealing, you're not gonna get anything in the bat. So, but if you're able to create content that really resonates with a lot of people, and people are willing to gift you for it, that's how you earn. So, well, when people send you gifts, you earn this currency called diamonds, and when you earn a certain amount of diamonds, you can cash it out in pesos. I actually don't have like much personal experience with that, but seeing how the biz dev team works, I think it's very understated how big of an impact biz dev can make. Kasi in terms of parang raw numbers, it's hard to attribute na, well, we did the partnership with PBB. It's sometimes hard to attribute na, okay, because of PBB, we got this many users. There are soft ways for us to attribute that kind of data using mga analysis, but it's not always all tangible. Eh. Pero I think BizDev really comes in very strategically. Parang they're the ones who are gonna dictate how the app will move parang in a medium to longer term. Parang short term kasi while PBB is going on, it's not immediately obvious like how big of an impact that can make on the company, on the startup. Pero eventually parang we like 6 months after PBB, parang we'll talk to random people and then they'll know Kumu. Ah, yeah, kasi diba yun yung my partnership with PBB. So parang it makes a lot of longer lasting effects that aren't very tangible, but I feel like are still very, very valuable.